information you'd like to share?
The only question I guess I would have, thinking about zoning and BZA and some other things, I mean, we've got other steps in front of us. Is there a way to go forward with the zoning maybe, but commit to a reduced footprint prior to, so that at the BZA, some commitment that the BZA application would be, some acceptable size?
I can't speak for the board as a whole.
Sure, I understand.
But personally, I don't feel comfortable with a blanket rezone the way that the properties are across the road. So at the current request, again, I want to keep on track that this has nothing to do with excavating the earth and installing a landfill, right?
Understood.
So, but that being said, if we were to go back to the principal idea of this meeting is to evaluate the suitability of a piece of property for a zoning change. So let's imagine for a moment that there were going to be a factory placed on that side of this road. I believe that this board would ask that entity to define the area that they would like, and we probably would not take and go to draw two parcel lines. So that's where my opinion lies. I can't speak for the board. And I think that it was requested at the last meeting to try to come up with some reduced or some further definition of what may lie inside of this 150 to possibly tighten that.
Okay. I apologize. I don't recall that specific request. Okay.
No problem. I mean, I don't think anybody could ever walk away from meetings like this and remember all of this, so I understand, but that's my position on this, so if anyone else would like to elaborate, by all means.
I mean, I think I'm in agreement a little bit. I don't want to say a blank check, but if we was to approve the 150 acres, basically giving you a blank check to start bringing in from wherever you want to do it. I mean, you're telling me the current landfill is 15 to 20 years, and if we approve another 100 acres, then basically, I don't know how many years that would get you at the current level of trash we're doing, but basically you could expand your base and whether you call it a blank check or whatever, and a reduced area would be easier for me to look at.
I understand. And I hear you. I guess, could we ask to come back with that revised footprint then? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, this is your petition. You all have paid this fee, so you can ask us to vote on the proposal as it is, or you can ask to revise it, which would table it at this time, and we revisit with an updated proposal, the way that I believe that would work.
Okay, so if we want to revise that, then we would submit that revision.
That's correct.
Please come back.
Still be the same petition, or a revised petition, so it's not a new process, it's the same petition.
Okay.
Kurt, just a couple things.
Yes, sir.
I just have some questions that I want answered by Ben or at that meeting.
Yes, sir.
The smell that Bill's talking about, I mean, there is a smell at times, but I smell a lot of things where I'm at. I go by your guys' place 3 or 4 times a day. I'm kind of getting drug into this, but by fate, I was here 10 years ago when you guys presented, except I was in your spot dealing with a drainage issue. So I'm fairly up to date on the matters. And I deal with IDEM as well in construction all the time, so I understand what you're going through there. But if we could get some answers on the smell, I understand that it's the piping with the gas issue, but why has that started within the past year when it really wasn't as prevalent previously? And also, I'm still struggling with how you guys are coming up with your need. So if there could be some definition for that need. In other words, you know, you're telling us 15 to 20 years, which obviously you're trying to do some projections there, as that's how long this landfill is going to live, the current one. And I'm assuming you're using current inflow rates. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're just trying to project out.
Correct.
So with that in mind, is that how you're projecting your work across the road, or are you just, where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're just trying to toss out a line and see how much you can reel back in.
Okay.
That's why we need the definition.
Okay.
Are we open to ask some questions?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
One concern that I would have is if you increased your size, say by 80 acres, currently you're bringing in 75% of your trash from outside of Decatur County and 25% in. I mean, that, if you open up 80 more acres, are you now gonna bring in 5 times more trash from outside the county? Because you've got such a large landfill to fill it up. That's my great concern, because I don't want us to be the landfill of Indiana. Currently, we're one of the smallest landfills in Indiana. If we were to go to the 150 acres, I think we're third or fourth biggest from the numbers that I looked at. And I'm using 150 acres, not 110 or whatever, so that's my main concern too, is that extra land gonna give more years for Greensburg? Or is it just gonna enable, you know, you guys say you're not gonna go haul it in yourself, but they haul trash from New York City to Mongolia. So, you know, you can get trash from Cincinnati and Louisville and Indianapolis to Greensburg pretty easily.
Sure.
At the cost it would be. So I think we need some assurances, that even if we do approve this, that this expansion is for Decatur County, not an expansion for you guys to be able to make a lot more money by bringing in a lot more trash. Does that make sense?
I understand the question. I guess my answer would be, you know, that the only way to increase, you know, a market share like that would be, you know, with drastic low prices. You know, and we still have costs associated with development and other things.
Understand all
Yeah.
that.
So, I mean, that's
I'm
not the model that
concerned
we're
about-
operating.
I'm not
under.
concerned about your cost.
Right.
I'm not concerned about anything other than Decatur County.
Right, I understand.
That's my concern. And I visited your facility and, you know, overall, I can't see how you can do what you're doing much better. I mean, I'm not an expert at it. Looks like it's done very, very well, but the better you do it, you know, if you build, they will come. And I don't want them coming to us.
Sure. Okay.
Is it wrong to ask how much money they bring in every year at that landfill from out where and everybody, and can we, is it wrong to ask that question? It's just a question, how much money are they taking in?
They're a private business. I don't think that's any of our business.
I think it's the business of the residents of Decatur County, sir. And somebody will answer that
As
one.
an area plan member, it's none of my business.
I understand
If
that.
commissioners want to get into that, they can get into it.
I
I'm
understand.
not.
I understand.
I'm a business owner and it's none of mine.
I understand.
So, a good question that Tom has asked. and I don't want to dabble in responding to that, but is there something that would change if you all have been operating in a currently a 70-ish acre landfill today, is that correct?
Right.
And since about what year?
91.
What would be the potential causes, so you, if, I want to word this the right way, what would cause you to increase your area of service? I think that the big concern is that best way would start to become the source for disposal for a larger area. But is a new landfill the trigger for that, or why would you not already do that now? What would the bigger landfill change? I'm assuming that currently with Rumpke, with Southside, with Morristown, that there's some level of competition that forces you to work inside of an area. Is the reason you probably can't drive 300 miles to pick up trash because it's not economical. Is that a fair argument?
Right, that you're exactly, I mean, the circles that you're drawing are accurate. You know what I mean? And you get into the market force questions, things like that. So for us, maybe this will help, I don't know. Like having ground zoned doesn't necessarily make it permitted. And so the same thing that you're asking for, kind of define the needs and kind of define, that's something that we'll have to go through with IDEM as well. And so there's going to be limits on what they would permit, to kind of what's reasonable. Because to Tom's point, IDEM doesn't want, just like you don't want Decatur County to be the landfill of Indiana, IDEM doesn't want Indiana to be the landfill of, the region or wherever. So they put some limits on some things that way too, so. But
Are there restrictions, Kurt, on waste crossing state lines?
no,
There are not.
no, because it's commerce.
I'm just curious.
Right.
I didn't know if IDEM regulated that.
Sure. So what I was getting at, the point that I was getting to a minute ago, though, is that having ground zoned or permitted even doesn't in and of itself, that doesn't increase our business cost and cause us to have to, feed that. If that helps with, like you're saying, what drives that, that expansion, that market expansion, and having that landfill space doesn't, increase our bottom line, our bottom line cost, to where there has to be a top line increase to cover that.
Yes, sir.
I have a comment to make on the expansion. When I had several conversations with IDEM in the past, and what they had told me is that a lot of them are becoming what they call mega landfills, the ones that are still existing. And what drives the expansion is because communities do shut down their landfills, then the ones that still exist and the ones that are still there grow then. Because there's just, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I was thinking the guy that told me, he said when he started there were maybe 90 some landfills his office was responsible, and now it's down to 30. Or I don't know if it's an exact number or not, but that's what he told, because he was explaining the term mega landfill and how they're becoming so big. There's just less of them, and less communities want them.
Can you talk, Kurt, about the landfills that surround us? So obviously Southside Indy, Rumpke north of Coleraine, is that correct? Morristown?
Correct.
And then what's the one to the south? Where, if you started driving south, where would you?
If you go south, you have to go all the way down to Clark County,
Okay.
Jeffersonville area.
Can you and I understand these are not all the businesses of yours, but can you speak intelligently on where those landfills lie in their process? Are some of these near shutdown, or some of them, does that make sense? So will we be facing, well, let's say this, will we be facing an influx of trash from one of those potentially shutting down in the next 25 years? And I understand that these are subject to inspections and things like that, but from a property standpoint and an area zone, are you familiar with those facilities enough to speak about what you feel like their future is?
I'm not familiar with that part of the market.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know of any that are nearing the end of their useful life, but.
Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Linda Nobby. Thinking long-term here, I was just curious, when the current landfill closes in 15 to 20 years, who then takes responsibility for it? Does it come back to Decatur County? And we're, like, our kids and grandkids are gonna be testing and making sure everything is good with it, or does Beck's Farms still maintain it? Do we know?
Yeah, go ahead. You know more than I do. I don't wanna.
This is one of the big things that's kind of at the root of the rule changes that came in, like in the 80s and 90s, was the long-term responsibility that did not exist with a lot of the, your numbers are roughly right. There's 90-something and there's 30-something now. But today, you know, we are required to, like, as part of the application, we have to put together a closure plan and a post-closure plan that extends for at least 30 years. And there's no hard end date on that. It's performance-based. Like, is the landfill still producing gas? Is the landfill still producing leachate? If it is, you're not done yet. And behind all of that is, like, you put together the plan, and then you have to project out, you know, the costs for when it's going to close and what, you know, when it's going to close plus that post-closure period. And all of that has to be funded. Like, there has to be either insurance or bonds, or there's financial instruments that have to, that the state has control of, that didn't used to exist. You know, I think when the Decatur County landfill closed, you know, it was basically down to, you know, a group of interested parties, you know, the businesses and the city and the county, and, you know, that pulled together and put some money together to close that and to try to take care of it, because these rules didn't exist back then.
So the plan, and after this closes, if it closes.
When it closes.
When it closes, 30 years then,
At least.
best way,
Mhm.
and then what happens?
We wouldn't be released from that liability until those performance standards are
Okay, and then
met.
once all those performance standards are checked off.
Then it's essentially inert. I mean, that's what we're looking at, is like when it stops producing wastewater and when it stops producing gas.
So it just comes nothing.
I have a question, but on the current two, you have a floodway going between the two, so there will always forever be an erosion risk. That will never end, like with the current landfill and the original landfill. There's a floodway through there. So eventually it's gonna start eating into the old landfill, and the county's gonna have a problem with that if it doesn't already. I don't know what the deal is back there. But, you know, 30 years is nothing. So, you know, right now, it's gonna be a long-term, and if Bestway shuts down, once there's no money coming in, what keeps you from just bankrupting the company? It's gone, boom. Then whose responsibility? There may be a bond or some insurance, but if Bestway goes bankrupt or 600 land, whatever, then it still rolls back to the county. Even if it's 100 years from now, the county may have to do all that erosion control, because you have that water running next to a steep bank. You know, I mean, anybody that knows farming or whatever knows what water running next to a steep bank does. So,
Are you talking about, Rick, the existing or the Tinsman or the
yeah,
proposed?
well, there's waterway between the Tinsman and the current
Existing,
one.
that's the- okay.
It runs between there,
Okay.
yeah.
I'd like to respond to that.
That's the one that goes up into my dad's property, and it goes all the way across 46, and I'm not sure where that whole watershed, but it starts county floodplain, starts on my dad's property, and then it goes down through. And then I believe state floodplain is in between the two landfills up a certain length. I'm not sure how far.
I assume part of the surface water runoff that is overseen by IDEM addresses this current or this existing
Right,
water?
so.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so floodways are one of the things, there's setbacks around floodways and elevation restrictions and things like that to maintain, base flood plus 3 feet.
Are there current erosion issues with this water path today?
No, it's several feet below I'd have to look, I don't remember what the flood elevation is there, but the normal stream is several feet below. There's like a stream, several feet of bank, and then a berm that's 6 feet maybe above the flood.
Running water, though, is not currently causing erosion issue, is that?
No, it's not, and that's covered in the regulations.
So once again, thinking long-term, if the current landfills are Decatur County's responsibility down the road, we want to add another 150 acres that we have to be responsible for down the road.
Kurt?
I was just wondering, I mean, I don't think there's anybody here that's.
Come on up here, Kurt.
There were 90 landfills, and now there's 30. I mean, I know most of the people in here. A mega landfill has gotta be what that's all about. If you got 30 years, and they're wanting to double the size of it, to think that they're not wanting to bring, if you have 30 years, it's like me planning a 50-year process as a business owner. I don't think you do that. As far as the people on the board, I think you have, if you go from 90 to 30 of these, there's a reason. No one else wants them. And I guess the question is, are we in that state to where we have to have it, like the county? You know what I mean? Like, is it money? What's the reason, like, we would want it? You know what I mean? Just a question, because it's obviously, if they're shrinking, I can't remember the guy's name that was here last time that was talking, but he said he had a 500-acre one. And I talked to him in the hallway, and he said that they're all getting bigger. And that's because no one else wants them, in my opinion. And is that where Decatur County's at, that is there somebody at the state that says you can have X, Y, and Z if you allow this? Because the money thing, 200,000, how many people were in Greensburg? 12?
12 in Greensburg, approximately.
So that's $16 a year. I mean, a $200,000 number is a good number to throw out there, but divided by 12,000, it's $16 a year. So I just don't know if that's the state of this county or that you would want. I mean, it is going to be what you call a mega landfill. And the main reason I want to come here is to back up what Bill was saying. Because I moved here in 2014, and no issues at all. But in the last 8 months, something has changed, what Bill's saying. And I'm not really saying I'm for or against it, kind of neutral on that. I'd rather not have it probably, but it has changed. I think that question's got to be answered, because it's totally different than it was in 2014, 15, 16, 17, for sure. And then, is that one going to be shut down and then we open one? Or is this one going to be open and we got a 300 acres open trash, 150 acres open trash? Or how does that work? Does it, you know what I mean?
I think IDEM regulates the size of the open dump, if I understand that correctly.
So would you shut it this side down to open another one, so it would be the same size, or would they both be open, both sides?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be closed, like closure plan closed.
Right.
But you would only have like the volume that this place sees, you'd only have one dumping area,
Right.
one active center.
When you say one dumping area, does that mean the area that's not dumped, is that the black spray you're putting on it, or is it covered up with actual dirt, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's like a foot of soil if you're gonna dump it
But now you're putting like a black spray over
on a daily basis.
instead of the 6 inches of dirt on a daily basis, correct?
Some days, yeah.
Right. Was the original plan that you guys agreed to, was it supposed to be dirt daily?
No, the alternative daily cover is like it's improved.
I mean, originally, when you guys came to these guys, the way I read it was every day you could go and you could like peel it back with a track hoe and you could see the dirt to see if it was done. And now there's a new approved alternative, which is to spray it with a thin black so the birds can't carry it off. So, I mean, I didn't know if you guys approved that but I think that might be the smell, you know what I'm saying? So if we're gonna spray it with a thin alternative spray, instead of 6 inches of dirt, that might be, half the problem with the smell and the other issues. How long have you been doing like the alternative?
It's been longer than, like, it's been years. Several years. 10, several.
Few years. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Nice job, Kurt. Sir, may I ask you another question, please?
Proceed.
The last time we went through this, they wanted to close 280.
Come on up here, Bill.
The last time we went through this, their proposal was to close 280, which is the road that I live on. I bought my place in 1980. The girl I've been married to for 65 years has got an incurable blood disease. I've got her to the hospital and had 8 or 10 minutes before they could get her okay. Now, the reason why I bought the place I bought, I could go over there and get on 421 and go into town. Or I could turn around and get on 100 South and go in. If it's snowing. Now, gentlemen, they're not gonna close my road.
I don't think there's been any discussion about. road
I'm just what I want to bring up. I just want to know, is that what your plans are? Yes or no, sir?
There would be a proposal to do that.
There you have it.
But that's.
There you have it. I thought so. And there was one more thing. When the guy that opened that landfill back there and took a backhoe, took a drag line and started digging and dumping, and there was not any line there. And wells in that area started getting contaminated. I understand. We're just talking about
There are contaminated wells,
mine,
and that's someone,
Rick's,
Not mine, my dad's.
his dad's.
and we can confirm, there's some data that
We've
shows.
had tests. We can't find the documents right now, but we're having
I
it
can
retested as we speak, so.
If there is, I hear a lot about groundwater contamination, but I've yet to see some data that
You're gonna see it.
supports.
You're gonna see it.
Please do.
I can't do it right now.
I mean, it
'Cause
would seem like if I had a contaminated well, I'd probably be going to the state tomorrow
Well,
about this.
This I won't open it up here, but yeah, we have talked to state and lawyers about it, but
I understand that when Mr. Tinsman was put out of business and closed because our county commissioners gave him a free run. He's a good old boy. He'll take care of it. And then they walk in and close it down. And somebody had to take it over This is not hearsay, because I hate hearsay. Somebody had to take it over and promise that they would seal it, that they would do this and they would do that in the future. Now, please help me, because I've been out there since 1980. I was out there before they started that landfill. They bumped right up to Tinsman. I'm not sure where the liners were at, but those liners are put in there, right up against Tinsman. Now, was there a deal cut that they would take care of it and cap it and do? Because you see, gentlemen, the only right thing that could have ever been done was for that landfill that he put in out there with everything God only knows out of those factories that we needed because we were employing people. And they told me I had aluminum in my water. Let's see, now wait a minute. I remember when I checked my well and it was 97 feet deep. In my rental property right up the road from me, it's 109. It's an artesian well. You ought to see that water. We're just talking about our water. That's all. That's okay. I've took a chance on a lot of stuff. And I've made me some money. But there's been other times that I had to pay the barber. I was dumb. I thought, my God, why did I do that? But I'm just telling you right now, we've only got one chance to do the right thing when it comes to what we're going to drink every day. Can't put a good construction on that. I don't know. And I mean, I think you guys are doing a good job. I promise you before God, I don't lie. And I think you are. And I wouldn't want your job. But I do the right thing.
Thank you.
Let's go home.
Other questions or comments? Kurt, you've got the option at this point to amend your proposal. If you choose not to, the board is going to table this. I think that there's been a lot of, I've got pages of stuff up here that I'd like to verify, check in, ask, things like that. So at this point, I'm gonna ask that we table this vote. And in the meantime, I'd ask you guys to be diligent in your request and potentially put something before us that tightens this size up. Maybe some further definition of a site plan, and I understand that there's a lot to determine through IDEM, and a lot of that you don't know yet, but as of right now, it's something I don't feel comfortable with, and the board can choose to speak if they would like, but it's my opinion.
Okay. Are you asking me to request that it be tabled? Is that?
That's
That's
my
how it works.
request to you. If you would prefer otherwise, I'm not going to deny you the right to call a vote, but that's my advice.
Okay. I think that's what we need to do. Please,
Okay.
sir.
Before this is adjourned, I want to say that I appreciate everybody going about this. This is obviously a highly passionate topic. Appreciate your willingness to be orderly about this. These discussions will continue. Thank you for your patience. Meeting is adjourned.